What interested Hip Hop Connection in the Rap Assassins?
Well, it's basically over about a period of a year, we had various white labels sent down. So they had records, but people couldn't buy them in the shops as such. And we got the sampler from the Killer album, which is 4 tracks. And we just thought it was brilliant. And we're not known for putting people on the cover who aren't already established in some way or form or are big in America, and so on. So we just followed through and thought, we're going on the cover. This is excellent. And went up to Manchester and interviewed them.
Were they the first British act to go on the cover of the magazine?
No, not at all.
Which other British acts have you had there?
Silver Bullet, Rebel MC, but basically people who've had mainstream success. MC Duke is probably the only other rapper who hasn't actually made it into the charts.
Do you have a policy on the coverage of British artists in the magazine? Do you kind of positively?
Oh yeah, well we're a British rap magazine, so we try and cover as much British rap as possible, if not all.
Do you kind of follow through with the idea that a lot of British rap music is crap and still hasn't cut through properly? I mean, are they among the first people to do it properly?
To an extent, but they're probably the first people to make a good British rap album. A rap album that covers a lot of bases, and it's also sort of infused with a kind of British personality or charisma that relates so directly to the UK experience, talking about things which are pertinent to living in Britain or living in Manchester, which people can relate to.
Right. The Killer, were there any tracks in particular which stood out?
Yes, well immediately there was And It Wasn't a Dream, just a 3rd track on side 1. And that basically deals with the problems of immigrants coming over to the UK in the 50s and 60s, the problems they had all the way along the line, really. It kind of details institutionalized racism, so across the board. But it's not as John was saying before, it's not set over sort of pulsating drums or anything. It's very laid back, quite mellow, but it's probably the best social conscience lyric British rap artists have put over.
Do you think it helps to deliver the message, the fact that it's not in your face and it's not kind of screaming in your ear?
Well, yeah, I mean...
It's so laid back.
Well, exactly. I mean, it just comes over crystal clear, whereas if it was maybe a really fast hardcore track, you wouldn't necessarily pick up on what the lyrics were saying first off, and B, it wouldn't have the same impact.
Have you not heard other people in British hip-hop discussing similar topics?
In a sense, but And It Wasn't a Dream was written from a very personal viewpoint. It was written sort of when Dad was a lad, he was bad, and everything else is written from it's directly relating to Anderson's own experience, but it's an experience that can be shared by lots of people, anyone who had immigrant parents coming over to this country.
In terms of significant tracks, And It Wasn't a Dream has got to be one of the most important records of the last 5 years. I mean, I'll remember that record for decades to come, I reckon.
Is that particularly because of the musical or lyrical significance of it?
It's a good record musically, but much more importantly than that, it is a record which deals with second generation experience in this country for immigrants, and it addresses that second generation problem or issue in a way that I've never come across being addressed at all. For example, I'm second generation Irish, and my parents came over in the 50s, and they experienced what black people in the 50s experienced. As it says in the song, you know, no Irish, no blacks, the signs were up everywhere. And what second generation people often forget is if you're white, like me, just because your parents happen to be Irish and therefore you happen to be white, you're still a second generation immigrant. Now, if my parents were West Indian, I'd be black. I am clever like that, logic. But I'd be black, and that would mean that my experience in this country today would be really different, because nobody looks at me and thinks, so where do you come from? I look English. Now, a black person who is as English, British, whatever, as me, is still looked at suspiciously. I think it's dead important the way there's a touch of irony in there, but most importantly, they address it seriously, and in a way that's not making you feel uncomfortable about it. It's not a moan. It's not, we've been treated badly, we're terrible, you've done this to us, you know, and our lives are terrible because of what you've done to us. I feel that the song is basically saying, you know, it was really tough for our parents, they were sold a dream by governments. They bought the dream and they found out it wasn't a dream, it was a nightmare. And that is what really happened. That's what happened to my parents. And the fact that my Irish relatives are racist now cracks me up. I mean, I turn around to them and I say, hang on a minute, how can you talk about black people as wogs, as coons, which they do, it's part of their vocabulary. When you came over here, you were treated like shit, and everybody regarded you as shit because you were a paddy. But now you're more acceptable, you know, you're integrated because you're white, you know, it's much more acceptable for the establishment.
Do you think it's possible for a rap like It Wasn't a Dream to change people's attitudes? Would, for example, your relatives, if they heard that track, think again about what they feel about blacks?
I don't know whether just one thing, one song, can change people's attitudes. I think you've already got to have something there in the first place. You've got to have the open ear. So you can get someone and you can sit them down, you can say, listen to this record. And if they don't want to listen to the words, they're not going to listen to them. But if you've got someone who knows that basically their racism is wrong, right, and it's just what they've been brought up with, or it's just what's easy for them to do, and it's an opting out process for them, you might be able to change them with it. I think you can. I know that, I mean, just talking to, say, my mum about the record and playing it to her made a real difference to her, because she suddenly realised the connection between being Irish and being black in this country. And she'd not thought about that before. And she was like, yeah. And she was really excited that a song written by black people of my age group, as she sees it, as of my age group, was about being an immigrant and what it was like in the 50s, because it's important to her. So I think you can, but people have probably got to be a bit open in the first place.
Right, okay.
Tracey, how did you become involved with the track It Wasn't a Dream?
Well, basically what happened was, while they were working on the track in the studio, Greg brought a tape back to my house, and I was listening through, and I started singing along, and Greg said, let's get that down. Next morning, recorded it, so it's pretty spontaneous.
Why did you like the track?
Why? Because just so aware, made me aware of a lot of the hardships that, you know, Andy's, Carson's, probably Kermit's parents had to go through in coming over here, you know. You're not aware of that in Liverpool, especially.
You had a particular reaction to the track, Justice. What was that?
God, even from the first time I heard it, it just made my hair stand on end. Goosebumps a lot, you know. It still does it now. Same with That's My Nigger.
Why is that?
Why? Because I think primarily it's because you're speaking the truth, and like to have the truth spoken to you, you know, someone just giving you the facts. It's pretty scary, you know, to realise that that's happening now, that's going on. And also that droning bass, you know, it's all pretty sinister.
Well, in the early days of the band getting a record deal, producing tracks, releasing records, whatever, we was actually in the shop one Saturday afternoon and we were discussing, you know, what to do in the way of merchandising. I'd always had this idea to redo the famous stance that the Black Panthers did at the Olympics. I commissioned a photographer, Ian Tilton, and put the idea to Greg, the manager, and within 2 weeks it was all sorted, and it's probably one of the best selling t-shirts we've got.
Kermit turned up 6 hours late, and the previous session that we'd done for promotion for them, he turned up 6 hours late for that because he said, I've got to get my hair cut.
The Rap Assassins actually rap with northern accents, which is quite interesting. And the backing music, by having lots of samples out of rock and maybe some indie stuff and 60s things, is different again. I mean, De La Soul were hinting at that before, but this is more of, again, a British mix of things.
No rap cliches on the sleeve or anything like that. As you can see with the sleeves that we've done since then, everything's completely different to any other rap bands you've seen. The sleeve for the album is very complementary to the album itself. It's a collection of visual images that go hand in hand with the sound samples themselves.
What is it that's special about them? What is it that kind of caught your ear about them?
Well, what they've done basically is taken the New York rap and the American bland rap and pushed it into a new direction and given it a Manchester feel or a northern feel.
Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting about it. that it's not gold chains, it's not people rapping on about inane subjects. They've actually given a bit of depth and a bit of interest in the area.
But aren't there people who've done that before?
There are people who've done it before, but not as well. I mean, when I first saw them, they were more like a band than a rap outfit. They didn't use backing tapes, they didn't sort of wear silly hats and gold chains and things, and that is important, because that does alienate a lot of people.
So do you think they're going to be able to cross over to a rock audience, or
I think they already have. I mean, I'm not a hip-hop specialist. I was writing for Sounds when I first saw them, for a rock magazine, if you like, and they appealed to me more than any other hip-hop band or act I've seen before, yeah.
The visual aspect of the Rap Assassins is important.
I think a very, very visual band. I've seen them a couple of times. Hacienda was the first gig I saw with the sister band Kiss AMC. I think they're very visual. And just getting back to the rock thing for a moment, I mean, they did sample the 70s band Steppenwolf on one of the cuts on the album. But I mean, if you want to talk about that side of things, Run DMC did it years ago with Aerosmith, didn't they? I mean, there's a definite crossover potential, but it's a commercial point rather than musical point, I think.
But it seems a significant thing to talk about, because the Manchester scene has been kind of very rock orientated, and a lot of the kind of...
I wouldn't agree with that. I think the Manchester scene is it's a multitude, it's a tapestry of all the different silks of different kinds of music. It's completely right across the board. It's not just all about rock music, it's about dancing and having a good time. So, you know, anything that makes you want to dance, have a good time, it's good music, we'll take it in Manchester and we'll kick ass to it, you know, we'll just get on with it.
But are they justified in coming through? I mean, are they justified in the attention?
They've worked hard for that attention. I mean, they're not a flash in the pan. They've not just suddenly appeared. They've had a record deal for 2.5, 3 years, and before that they were the dance outfit, Breaking Glass. They've been going for years. They're in no way are they an overnight sensation. They deserve everything they get. They've worked hard for it, and so is the manager, Greg. I mean, that guy's a master of promotion, and he looks after people in press offices, etc.
How important do you think he's been in the development of the whole thing?
Pretty vital. I think he's been a pretty important cog in the whole machinery. It was he that got them the gig with what was the label they on? Murder Tone through EMI, Syncope. It was he that sorted out the deal with EMI. He sorted them out, sorted Kiss AMC out. I think he's been integral. I think he's had a very important part to play. Having said that, the music's great too. That's got a lot to do with it, but you know, you need someone to push.
Is he almost like an invisible member of the band then?
Almost like an invisible member of the band. A manager, if he's any good, is the other member of the band. There's no two ways about it. If you're going to manage a band, you've got to be a member in that way.
Is he too ugly to be a visible member of the band?
I think that's a matter of taste. I'm heterosexual, so...
Are we rolling?
We're rolling, yeah.
Do you think you could have got where you are today, standing on a wall in the middle of Manchester, were it not for the Ruthless Rap Assassins?
I thought you were going to ask me that one actually, because it's very unfair. Well, I would imagine that, no, because musically I wasn't that interested in music. It's just the fact that my brother made me do it. You know, that is why I'm stood here. So yes, I would say it's the Rap Assassins, I'd say it's like Kermit.
Yeah.
That's why I'm stood here in this room.
So the other two don't matter?
Of course they matter, you know what I mean? But at that time then, it was just like, you know, just my brother like, giving me stress and things.
Right. But you don't need stress now to do it?
Not at all, I just need pleasure, and then I'm well away.
And are they as ruthless as people believe they are?
Annoying, argumentative, troublesome, tiresome people, yes they are. Completely ruthless. That's it, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Alright.
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine. Should be quite sick. Alright. Anne-Marie. Alright, rolling. Okay, John.
Anne-Marie, how did you first meet the Ruthless Rap Assassins?
How did I first meet the Ruthless Rap Assassins? Well, I was sat at home with special brew in hand, and Christine came round with her brother and started babbling on about making a record, and I left with them. And that's how I met the Ruthless Rap Assassins.
And what are they like to work with? Because you've worked with them on some of your music in the past.
They're okay.
Thank you. That'll do. I think it's going to go any further than that.
Anything else, huh?
Yeah.